Hey guys, welcome back. So have you all seen this video lately? This was uploaded a couple of weeks ago. Autotopia LA. It's actually one of my favorite channels. Sean is the fellow that has the YouTube channel, and he's got three or four guys that he employs, and they do awesome videos. It's in the LA area. They do videos of super high-end builds, custom cars, hot rods, muscle cars, that sort of thing. And most of them are all high dollar builds, and they all are high horsepower cars. This particular video surfaced a couple of weeks ago, and they had a bad crash with this. They had some brake failure, and the internet is just a buzz with this whole thing. And I wanted to give you guys my spin on this. So basically, now, they talked about how this was a 23-year build, and the fellow invested over $200,000 on this car. It's a 1,300 horsepower, 64 Mercury Comet. And anyway, he normally on this particular Sean's videos, what they do is they do a walk around in a shop, and they check out the car, they talk to the owner, the builder, the driver, and then they take it for a little bit of a ride, and they have a camera car that follows, and etc. And sometimes they do burnouts and stuff like that with the cars. It's a pretty cool channel. I really like it. Anyway, with this particular ride, they made a lot of mistakes. Apparently the throttle was hanging up a little bit in the car, and it was idling consistently at 2,300 RPM, and the driver was having to ride the brakes the whole time. So what had happened was after a few miles, the brakes got hot, and they had zero brake, and they had about 5 seconds, as far as I can tell from the video, by the time they realized they had no brake to impact, and they actually hit some people at an intersection. So there was some injuries here. Sean, the guy that has the YouTube channel, was in the passenger seat. This car has full harnesses. They just both had their lap belts on, which was one mistake. And unfortunately, Sean kissed the dash and broke some teeth, split his lip, and the driver actually blew his elbow out. And the SUV that they came into contact with at the intersection, that fella had a cut on his forehead. From what I understand, he's okay. But anyway, a lot of damage. $200,000 car ruined. It's still in pieces, as far as I understand. The fella will be, revisiting this when he gets a chance. And everybody's healed up at this point, but there's 3.1 million views on this video and thousands and thousands of comments, and of course everybody's had time to actually think about it and say all the things that was wrong and what they should do in a panic situation like that. Well, like I say, the guy had 5 seconds, and there's all kinds of talk about how the brakes should have been upgraded. They were done 17 years ago, and I believe it was a 4-piston caliper disc brake setup on the front of this car. Nothing wrong with that at all, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I mean, a 1,300 horsepower car, absolutely, I would get the best brakes I could. And he talked about actually wanting to upgrade that system on his walk around video. However, they ended up, the throttle was hanging up, first mistake. Should have pulled over right away and addressed that situation, or just stopped right there. That would have saved everything. The other thing was the fella was riding the brakes the whole time. And the thing that you have to remember, with regardless of what type of brake system you have, if you're having to ride them for a long period of time, and in this case it was a few miles on their ride, and what happened was, in my opinion, without looking at this car, the brake fluid started to boil, and then he ended up with no brakes and crashing the car. So now, one thing that everybody's got all kinds of opinions and comments on this, but one thing that was not talked about is the boiling point of brake fluid. Regardless of what kind of brakes you have on here, you could buy the highest end brakes, and I know that the bigger rotors and calipers do tend to dissipate heat quicker, but nothing is going to take dragging the brakes over an excessive period of time, like in this situation. So we have to remember that brake fluid dot 3 specifically, which is what I believe he had in this car. The boiling point of that dry is 401 degrees Fahrenheit, and wet it's 284 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's a substantial difference. And the difference between wet and dry, brake fluid is hygroscopic, and it sucks moisture out of the air. There's lots of factors there, so they say that basically 1 to 2% per year of moisture will get into your brake fluid, and like I say, there's lots of temperature, there's lots of factors. But regardless of what kind of brakes he had on the front of this car, I don't think that a big brake system would have saved him. Brake fluid is going to boil in any type of system if you're dragging them like this. So that's one thing that wasn't talked about, guys. Uncle Tony's Garage did I think he did 3 or 4 videos on this. Dan at D&D Speed Shop did as well. I liked everything those guys said, but no one really talked about the boiling point of brake fluid. Sean just did a live video to a Q&A type of a deal recently here, to answer some questions about what had happened here, because they got so many negative comments, and like I say, 3.1 million views on this thing. And it was really a terrible thing. Nobody understands more than the owner, driver, builder of this car all the things he did wrong in this situation. He threw the car in park, and he just basically steered into the car in front of him. Not much he could do. I've been in situations where I've actually had brake failure, and there's lots of different things you can do. It's something you should have in the back of your mind. And of course, in my situation, I already knew there was a problem with the car. It was a customer's car, and I'm just trying to duplicate in a safe environment what the customer is relaying to me to make sure the car is doing what it's supposed to do, or not what it's supposed to do. So in some cases I hit the emergency brake. This car did not have an emergency brake, by the way, so that wasn't an option, but I'm sure it'll have one next time they get this thing back together and on the road. Anyway, that's my take on it, guys. Sure like to hear from you what you think about it. Personally, I think no one talked about the boiling point of brake fluid. Dot 3 and dot 4, there's different boiling points for those, but basically, like I say, the car was, the brake system on there was 17 years old, and the boiling point was definitely under 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So, you know, several miles of dragging them, they're gonna boil. I don't care what kind of brake you got on there. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope maybe you got something out of that, and we'll see you guys again.